What's up, guys? So here we are at step three. This would be the final step of your TDA response when you go to work on your own. So for the hitchhiker, we're going through this process together as a class. So what you want to take a look at is this sample essay that I wrote. And I made sure that I wrote it as if a sixth grader could write it as well. If I had wrote it at a higher level, it would make no sense to you, and that's not what I'm trying to do here. So we're going to take a look at this essay. We're going to take a look at what is in there, what's not in there, and make sure that we have a good understanding, or at least a strong understanding of how a TDA response is supposed to look. So that when you go to do yours for the landlady, which you will start to read that text tomorrow, you have an idea of what your end point is just working with a different text. And you'll also be asked to discuss the mood that you think you get from the landlady when we go ahead and read that. All right, so we looked at this prompt yesterday, and the prompt is right here in The Hitchhiker by Lucille Fletcher. The author's word choice is used to create a certain mood. Write an essay analyzing how the words from the play reveal this mood. So I'm going to go ahead and read the essay first, and then I'm going to kind of stop and highlight and make sure that you're paying attention to things that need to be included when you write your essay. So here we go. Here's my opening paragraph. Ronald Adams, the main character of The Hitchhiker, is on a journey. Throughout his journey, he is haunted by a figure whom he continues to see as he drives stretches of highway. The only problem is that nobody else seems to notice the figure that Adams sees. Ronald so badly, even desperately, wants other people to be with him so that they too can prove that this figure exists, or at least be with him so that he doesn't have to go through this torture alone. Lucille Fletcher uses various words that reveal the mood of the story. Based on her word choice, the reader can tell that the mood is desperate. Now, we agreed on this. I would say I chose this mood for all of us to use as a class, because if we all chose different moods for the hitchhiker, I could never help you out. I would have to write 50 different sample essays. So we went with desperate. All right, so I'll go back to this opening paragraph, but let's continue. At one point, Ronald stops very late at night at a roadside store to try to pull himself together. The storekeeper, who was awoken from his sleep, wants Ronald to leave at once because the store is closed. When the man goes to shut the door to return back inside, Ronald says, "No, don't shut the door, please." The use of exclamation marks and words like "please" show the mood of desperation. The storekeeper is a complete stranger, and Ronald is just so desperate for someone to make sense of everything that is going on along his travels. Later in the story, Ronald sees a female hitchhiker, and he decides to pick her up. At this point, Ronald is certain that if he has someone with him, they too will see this figure, and he will be able to understand that he is not going crazy. When he approaches the woman hitchhiker, he says, "Where do you want to go?" She says, "Amarillo, Texas." Adams was heading to California and says to the female traveler, "I'll drive you there." Texas would be out of the way, and yet Adams's words of "where do you want to go" show the mood of desperation, because Adams would have taken her anywhere just to have someone with him. In conclusion, it is the usage of Fletcher's words that allow the reader to see clearly the mood of desperation. Ronald's need for a human to understand him, and even the need for the opportunity to clear his mind, highlight just how hopeless and desperate he was. Now, this isn't anything extraordinary. It's 4 paragraphs. Each paragraph has 4 to 5 sentences, but there are certain things that need to go in each paragraph. So let's break it down here a little bit. So if I'm looking at the opening paragraph, what I want to make sure in my opening paragraph is I want my reader to know when they read my essay that I understand that this prompt is asking me to focus on words in the story that give away a certain mood, right? So we want to, I would almost even, I would make sure, like, even when I get a prompt, I would go ahead and I would make sure that I pay attention to what it's asking me for. Mood, right? And it won't let me do it because it's in the way, and word choice. So actually we do it right here, words. How do words give away a mood? So that's what I need to focus on. That's my main goal. All right, so now we have, let me get rid of this. So now we have, that should go away. Now we want to talk about the opening paragraph right here. So again, so I'm going to go right here and I'm going to do some highlighting. It just makes my life a little bit easier. All right, so again, right, so word choice and mood. That's what this is focusing on. I want my reader to know, if they're going to read my essay, that I understand this is not asking me to summarize the entire story. I did not do that. Don't summarize the entire story. That's not what it's asking you for. It's asking you to focus on words that reveal a mood. When you do the opening paragraph, you want to make sure that you talk about the main character. You want to make sure that you talk about some of the characters, if you need to in the opening paragraph. You want to introduce the text. You want to introduce the text. So throughout the journey, he is haunted by a figure. So I kind of go on and I just kind of give the basic plot line of the story. The only problem is, okay, so now I'm going to come down here, okay, and you want to make sure that you introduce the author, right? So Lucille Fletcher is the author, and she's the one who uses the words, right? So again, I want my reader to know when they read my essay that I understand this is asking me to focus on words in the story, okay, words that are spoken, and how those words reveal the mood. Okay, so I want to make sure I take care of that. Then I want to give my answer. I said the mood is desperate. Okay, some of you might feel differently, but when you go to write about yours, you can include what you feel the mood is. Okay, so in there, that's what I want to make sure I have. Please think about this for a second. Nowhere in here do I have the words I, me, my. I don't say it at all. I think that the mood is desperate. Just say the mood is desperate. Leave out words like I, me, my, mine, in my opinion. No, don't put those in a text-dependent analysis essay. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. So now I'm going to start getting into some evidence here. And then I'm going to get into analysis here. Okay. At one point, Ronald stops very late. Okay. So here I'm summarizing a little bit, right? Okay, so I'm going to highlight this right here. So this right here is a summary. Okay, I can't just drop in a text out of nowhere. I need to let the person who's going to read my essay know all of a sudden where these quotes are coming from. So yes, I am summarizing, not the whole story though. I am giving a summary of right before when I want my quote to pick up, right? So at one point, Ronald stops very late at night at a roadside store to try to pull himself together. The storekeeper, who is awoken from his sleep, wants Ronald to leave at once because the store is closed. Okay. So that right there is it's me introducing where I'm going to start my quote. All right. So I'm going to change the highlighting color so I don't mess you up too much. All right. Now here's where I'm going to do my text evidence. When the man goes to shut the door to return back inside, Ronald says, "No, don't shut the door, please." Okay, that's my evidence. Remember, I picked my two strongest pieces of evidence. Here's one of them, right? I always say you have a ton of evidence that you highlighted, pick your two strongest pieces. Okay, so I went back and I picked these two pieces, right? Okay, so the use of exclamation marks. Now, here's where we want to get into analysis. Don't do your analysis by saying, I know this because, or I know this because. Don't do it. Don't write, I know this because. You know it because the text stated it. So the text states, right? But you could even go in like this. So here's my analysis. The use of exclamation marks and words like please show the mood of desperation. The storekeeper is a complete stranger, and Ronald is just so desperate for someone to make sense of everything that's going on in his travels. Done. Done. I gave my summary, I gave my evidence, and here's my analysis. I analyzed the evidence that I picked, right? Exclamation marks, that shows someone is desperate like crazy. They're shouting, right? And also begging. No, don't shut the door, please, right? If somebody is begging you, that definitely shows desperation. So I picked that one. The next one that I picked, the next piece of evidence that I picked comes into my next paragraph here. All right, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to pick my yellow highlighter so I can show you where my summary is. Okay, so here's my summary right before my evidence is going to pick up. Again, don't summarize the entire story. The prompt is not asking you to summarize the story. The prompt is asking you to find words that give away a certain mood. And the mood that we picked was desperation. All right, so here's our summary, right? Later in the story, Ronald sees a female hitchhiker and he decides to pick her up. At this point, Ronald is certain that if he has someone to go with him, they too will see this figure and he will be able to understand why he is not going crazy. Okay. Now I'm going to get into my text evidence. All right, so I'm going to do my text evidence in green so you can see it. When he approaches the woman hitchhiker, he says, right, here's my evidence. Where do you want to go? She says Amarillo, Texas. Adams was heading to California and says to the female traveler, I'll drive you there. Okay, there's my evidence, right? I took that right from the story. That's my text evidence. Now I'm going to go ahead and get into my analysis. So again, I'm going to switch my color here. Here's my analysis to show that he is desperate. Texas would be way out of the way. And yet Adams's words, so Adams is the one who's talking, of where do you want to go, show the mood of desperation because Adams would have taken her anywhere just to have someone with him. Okay, so that I am telling my reader why I picked that quote. When I do an analysis, I'm telling my reader why I picked that quote. Why does that quote show desperation? Okay, so I always say, two strong pieces of evidence and analysis is plenty for a TDA. I don't have any evidence, like no direct cited evidence in my opening paragraph. Okay, I have direct evidence here and direct evidence here and my analysis. Now my conclusion, look how short it is. This is perfectly acceptable. In conclusion, it is the usage, and I want to repeat in my conclusion that I remember what the two things this prompt is asking me to focus on. So in conclusion is the usage of Fletcher, she's the author, words. So it's her words. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I gotta get rid of that. So words, sorry, I want to get rid of this. Anyway, now I can just go burp, burp, burp. All right. So in conclusion, it is the use of Fletcher's words that allow the reader to see clearly the mood of, and I'll write the one that I picked, desperation. So you always want to make sure that you repeat what the prompt is asking you to look at, and that's what I did. Ronald's need for a human to understand him and even the need for an opportunity to clear his mind highlight just how hopeless and desperate he was. Done. That's it. That's all you need to make sure that you have in your TDA. All right? So again, 4 paragraphs. Nowhere in here will you see the pronouns I, you, me, my. You won't see in this anywhere I think, I feel, I know. Leave those out. They don't belong in a text-dependent analysis essay response. They don't belong there. Okay? They don't belong there. Instead of saying I, say the reader, right? Instead of saying, I know this because, just say the text states.